Here we go. Matthew 7, verse 13. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and many are those who enter by it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and the few are those who find it. What a mouthful. Everything that Jesus has said up to this point, he now comes to the clincher. He simply says one word, the very first word in verse 13. That's one of the most significant words you'll ever read. To us, it's fairly nondescript, the word enter. You ever go to McDonald's? Why do they put up the word enter? Because they don't want traffic going the wrong way through the drive-thru. They put up enter to get you to go the right way. I love that. McDonald's, in all the choices they give you on that menu, all the things you can get at McDonald's, there's only one way to go through the drive-thru that I know of, and not cause problems. Okay? Now I know some people, and you've read news accounts of people who try to go through McDonald's the wrong way. And it ruins the well-being of most people's lives. Jesus simply says, enter. Now, when we read that in the English language, it really doesn't mean much to us, because we live in a country and a culture that's founded on one word, choice. I mean, we're confronted with that idol of human existence every day. Had some friends and acquaintances of mine who moved here. She was from England, he was from Illinois. They both met in Africa doing relief work for the Tear Fund. He was a missionary's child and had been working in Africa and living in Africa for most of his teenage years. He met his wife Sally, they got married, they came to America. He took a truck driving school situation in Liberty, Missouri for about 2 years, and he came to our church. And in talking to his bride Sally, one of the things she could not get over in moving from England to America was going to the grocery store. She said, I don't know how you people buy groceries. You have so many choices. I don't know about you, but I can make a staple out of meat and potatoes. That's what I was raised on for most of my younger years. Meat and potatoes to me is a meal. Okay? So when I go to McDonald's, I pretty much know it's going to be the Big Mac and the fries. Meat and potatoes. Okay? But invariably, I get behind the person who has to decide whether they want onions, or the special sauce, or pickles, or mustard, or whatever. And all of a sudden, choices become to me the biggest aggravation of life. Baskin-Robbins. Ice cream to me, I mean, if the ice cream industry depended on me for its existence, it would go out of business. I'm not a big ice cream eater. I know there are some of you who have that running through your veins. But to put me in an ice cream store with 31 choices is disaster. And then I get to choose between 3 different kinds of cones, or put it in a bowl. They also give me the opportunity to taste. That's wrong for me. That's dangerous. You'll never get your ice cream if you're behind me at Baskin-Robbins. Just tap me on the shoulder and say, pull it over, I'm going on, I know what I want. Jesus says enter here, and it's quite specific, and I love the language in which Jesus speaks in his day, and the authors of the New Testament write, because it's locked in cement. The variations of the word and the meaning of the word are very limited. You can't go far afield like we can with the American language today and the definitions and the word usage. He simply says enter. And by saying enter, he simply says this: you have to make up your mind right now what you're going to do. That's the emphasis of the word enter. It conveys the idea of a specific and definite action. Unlike the drive-thru lane at McDonald's where you can pull out if you decide you don't want it, Jesus calls those who are sitting closest to Him at the Sermon on the Mount to make up their mind. I remind you again of the significance of what Jesus is saying here. John the Baptist is on the verge of death. The messenger who was sent to prepare the way is now facing imminent death. Jesus is a year into His ministry when He delivers the Sermon on the Mount. There's a transition coming in kingdom economy. The forerunner is going away. The King is here. The King is calling on those who will follow Him to make a once and for all decision to enter into that kingdom life. And He looks specifically at the 12 He has chosen, and He looks at them and specifically says, guys, the time is now for you to take definite action as to which way you're going to go. I take you back again to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 20 because it is there that Jesus offers the ultimate statement in the kingdom. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says this to that group of people on the hillside in Galilee. He says, "For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven." Did you catch that? You will not do what? Enter. What is the contrast that Jesus is drawing in Matthew 5:20? The right way. The contrast he is drawing is not the area of moral and immoral, is it? It's not in the area of religious or irreligious. It is not in the area of good or bad. It is in the area of righteousness. He draws a contrast between divine righteousness and human righteousness. He draws a contrast between divine revelation and human rules. Now you need to stop right there and get your mind around that very clearly. What Jesus is describing and drawing a contrast between are two ways. His way and anybody else's way. He's drawing a contrast between divine righteousness and human righteousness. And he simply says, enter. From this point on, in verse 13, Jesus draws repeated comparisons between two things. A narrow gate and a wide gate. A narrow way and a broad way. Life and destruction. Few and many. Let me suggest to you this morning that we've got into a myth. By we, I mean the body of Christ. If research is correct, the body of Christ is defecting from Orthodox truth. There's a generation of young believers who are questioning whether or not there is only one way to heaven. In fact, they're moving towards the fact that there are many ways that lead to heaven.